Well, hey, welcome there to the SBP Podcast, the voice of mobile film. You're listening to episode 63, and I'm your host, Susie Botello. Out of all the items that most people around the world have access to, a mobile phone or a smartphone is the most prominent. Even if you have a laptop, a camera, a printer, a watch, a car, a bike, or a bed to sleep in, the phone is the most common item that people have access to around the world. I just read that 96% of Americans alone own a cell or smartphone, and 85% own a smartphone. It may even be higher. I think that was in 2015. The International Mobile Film Festival in San Diego accepts only films shot with mobile phones. Any phone. Now, by focusing on the phone, we assure a platform open to everyone, including those who own traditional cameras and other mobile devices with cameras as well. By only accepting films shot with mobile phones, we provide everyone a fair and equal competition. At this time, submissions are open to short films 1 to 5 minutes and feature films 40 to 90 minutes. Submit your films by going to our website and clicking on the Film Freeway link or the button, and don't miss being a part of the next year's 9th edition International Mobile Film Festival and come to San Diego to be a part of it. Our guest in this episode came to San Diego to participate at the film festival last April. She submitted the short film, The Deepest Cut, and won second prize. If you're working on or thinking about making a film, don't underestimate yourself. You really have a chance not only being selected and screened in San Diego, but winning too. Listen to Alexandra Guillossou's story and be inspired to inspire yourself. Welcome to the SBP Podcast. Guess who I'm here with? I am here with Alexandra Guillossou. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. It was great seeing you here in San Diego a couple months ago in April.
Oh, yeah.
At the film festival where, you had a great time, didn't you?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that was great. It was a great time. It was a great festival.
I mean,
really?
One thing I want to share with our listeners is so she made a film for the first mobile film, which I should say actually is your first film, right?
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Because she's made videos before, but they were like promotional videos. But then she made an actual film and also with her phone. And she came to our film festival all the way across the world from Montana. Where in Montana are you?
Oh, St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri. I don't know why I was thinking Montana. But she came from there, came to San Diego, brought her wonderful family, and walked away with a trophy for second prize with her documentary film, a real tearjerker, by the way, guys, called The Deepest Cut. So, Alexandra, share with our listeners a little bit about yourself. You were in another one of our episodes earlier, but let's just pretend that no one wants to listen to that right now because they're listening to this.
Okay.
But they want to hear about you. And how is it that someone who has never made a film before makes such a touching and moving film that not only won second prize, but you also won the Global Mobile Film Awards Honorary Award. And that was because this can be confusing to people, that was actually, we formed a judging panel with the Global Mobile Film Awards. There was a judging panel, and there were 2 filmmakers that won Best of Awards at that award ceremony, because it's not a film festival, it's an award ceremony, pretty much like the Oscars. And those 2 judged the short films from only the attending filmmakers who came to San Diego.
Okay.
And one of them was you, who won the honorary award. And the 2 filmmakers that were on that panel were Matteo Tibiletti, who won Best Experimental Film Award for his film called Yes, No. And the other one was, and he's from Italy. And the other one is from Australia, Brian Hennings, who won the Best Cinematography Award for his film Focus. And they chose your film as well. So you left with 2 awards. We didn't think it was going to turn out that way, but that's how it turned out.
I know. It's crazy.
Yes. And Matteo, luckily enough, happened to be at the film festival. He came out from Italy to present you with the award. And that was also a really, really great moment, because you guys, everybody, listeners, when you come to this film festival, like Alexandra, go ahead and explain to them what the ambiance was like at the film festival.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, everyone is so welcoming and so friendly, and just, and it's genuine. There have been so many people that I've stayed in touch with a lot. And in fact, there are even some that the winner, in fact, that I've been in touch with. And we have pretty long sort of text, or message conversations, and we've never even met at the festival. That's sort of how amazing that community of, these artists is the fact that it's true that you make these connections, and everyone's really there for each other. And I never thought that was the way it would be, because you entered as a first-time person entering into this. I just thought, we'll see. I don't know what these things are all about. And everyone says, kumbaya, everybody, everyone sticks together. But in San Diego, it absolutely was like that. Everyone was just so genuine and so supportive of one another, that, it just left me with a very positive feeling about, doing future films and sharing them with the people that I met, and staying in touch with them and seeing the new things that they're doing as well, and supporting them. It's been great. It really has.
It really personalizes the entire experience, because I know that when, I didn't tell Matteo. I hope he's listening. I'm sure he is, because he also supports you. But I didn't tell him until literally that day, maybe even just a few hours before. Hey, by the way, here's who won, and hand her this award certificate. And so when he found out, it was more like, hey, my new friend. It could have been anyone there. But that's part of why I did it like that, because I wanted one filmmaker who actually attended to know from that group that one of you would walk away with an award. Even if you didn't, it just happened to turn out that you also won second prize. But let's say you had not, you would have at least walked out with that. You know what I'm saying? But that was a really neat experience for him and for you as well. But what was it? I want you to share a little bit about your film and what this film was about, because it really did touch people. Everyone there, and you get people sometimes who say, "Oh, Alexandra, everybody was talking about your film," and look, I'm serious, guys. Everybody was talking about her film. I'm not just saying this. It's honestly true. And some people that I hope that are listening to this were at the film festival, and they'll say, yep, I was talking about it. I remember going up to Susie and saying, oh my God, that film, from the sponsors that were there, the judges that were there, the regular, attendees that showed up to, to experiences, and the other filmmakers.
Well, there was even the photographer's son was there, right? One of the photographer's son was there, and he came up to me after to tell me.
He was like 8 or 9 or something like that.
Yeah. It was really touching. I don't know. I guess the film has been doing well because, I mean, I know probably everybody says their film is really honest, but a lot of times people try to tell you that in order to do a documentary, you need to keep yourself sort of separated from the subject matter. And this one obviously wasn't, because this one was based on my own family.
That's why it was a community stories program.
Right. And so I felt that how else could I fully share, the emotion of this piece without having that connection? I mean, that's what stories are about in general, right? I mean, stories are about your personal connection to it, and then you're sharing that with other people. So if you don't make that connection yourself, it's hard for me personally to understand how then you can successfully sell that to somebody else and have them feel what you're feeling. Now, I'm certain lots of people actually do that and do it very well.
They have to, because so what makes this different also is that you, for example, you happen to have the camera with you, the phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you learned how to use that. This is a new time that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, before we had the capability of a phone with a camera, people couldn't do that. You couldn't say to someone, hey, the story itself is not uncommon. That's part of the attraction to it.
Right.
It's the fact that you can tell it from the inside, as opposed to having the news or the media or to hire someone to actually, to get your story out from the third perspective.
Right. No, that's absolutely true. In fact, it's interesting because I went back and I saw my family again this year, and I had every temptation to pull the phone out again, but I got to tell you, it's like, as emotional as the one was that I did, I actually reached a point where I was like, I can't even do this one now because it's just too much. It was so yeah. I think the deepest cut is it just kind of gets the very top part of what that full story is, but the full story is just a lot. I think a lot for probably most people to take in. It's kind of that a lot of the insider stories, not all of them, but a lot of the insider stories about people with multiple sclerosis tend to be based more on the positive aspect, and absolutely should be, right? Because you don't want to depress everybody that has MS, and you want to keep people positive and always feeling hopeful. And this short film was just a look at really more just the reality of what some people go through. I mean, it was, like I said, it was pure and raw, and I didn't try to make it positive. I didn't try to make it negative. I just tried to show it for what it was for, my mom and my brother living through it. And that's why, like, even for me, like right now, like doing the full version of it, I think would be I actually think it could actually be maybe too much for a lot of people to take. Because the full story is just, it's something that most people just can't even take in. They can't even almost understand it when they see it. So,
and then it may have already been done.
Yeah,
You know,
it may have.
it
And
probably
not everybody
has.
wants to see that, right? Yeah.
Well, I
It
think
has been done before, and people get, people have that like full, like, not, it didn't just hit me emotionally, but it hit me like so hard that I can't even, stand up again, kind of thing. We don't, and that doesn't need to be rehashed over and over again.
no, I think what made your story very. I mean, look, I love documentaries. I would fall back in the day when I had cable. I would turn on, a channel, and a documentary would, had just started or something, and I would sink into it.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like I was looking for it or that I was attracted to a particular story or anything like that. It's just that I fell into it. And documentaries have that draw and that pull. And it could be an hour and a half, and you're going, why am I watching this? And it's because
Right.
it's so real,
Mm-hmm.
But the angle and the perspective of your story, this is Alexandra's brother who has multiple sclerosis. And she is sharing this story. I mean, share a little bit about how you even came, because, I'm talking about falling into a documentary.
Yeah.
You kind of fell into this yourself as the person who was telling this story, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it sort of stemmed from really when I was working full time. I was really starting to move from doing exhibit design. Exhibit design is, for a lot of people, it's when you go to a museum or you go to a science center or an aquarium or a zoo, and it's the information that stories that are being told to you, and some stories are told very successfully and other stories are not so interesting. And so, for 20 plus years, my job was to try to, in writing and in picture, to convey that story and to either to impact the audience somehow, to the visitor. And I started moving more towards video, because for me, I just felt like I felt like it was missing something. It was missing that extra little connection by it being so static, and that was just the natural progression. And I started realizing that, for me, it was so much easier. There's so many good stories just out there already, that for me, the need to invent one at the time, it just wasn't necessary. And for years, I had been sort of watching from aside my brother and what he was going through. And I constantly tell myself, God, this is a great story. This is a great story. And then just finally decided I have to show this. I have to get this down before there's a moment in time where I just can't and it's too late. And that's what I did. I ended up just saying, I'm just going to go for it. And I always tell people that, that's why, sometimes if you look at it, okay, the cuts aren't the most cinematic in a way, because, I was being a little surreptitious about how I was doing it at first. And then in the end, I came clean, and I talked to him about it, and he was absolutely on board and wanted to tell the story and wanted me to tell it. And that's when I got the amazing audio from him and my parents and his son, that could almost like be their own story, like their own audio story in themselves. It was amazing, the testimonies they gave. So then trying to kind of go back and fit that all together into that concise, like that nugget, that kernel of what he was going through, is how that whole process worked out. And so now, and for me now, just with the future projects I'm looking at, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, again, I have a good friend who does a lot of cinematography, and we sit down, we talk all the time about all of these great stories that we make up, and hey, what if we did this, and what if we did that? And, we really start to go down the road of doing that. And in the end, I still end up going to the ones that are the real stories that are out there, that I'm just like, well, this is just waiting for someone to to go in and tell this. So, I get the documentaries for me are just, I don't know. I just find them just so attractive. I don't need to add anything to them, really.
They're
So,
educational in many
yeah,
ways too. And
yeah,
I mean, you get, the saying of walking in someone else's shoes. I mean, you can do that with a narrative film, of course. I
yeah,
mean, just name, any of the war movies
right.
and things like that. But there's something about a documentary that's just so much more realistic. It's untreated. It's so raw in many
Mm-hmm.
ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
And sometimes, and a lot of people can't. A lot of people can write that, and those people are, they're truly amazing. But a lot of people can't and can't write it, can't
yeah.
fake that. And when it's right there in front of you, I guess that's how I approach it. It's right there. Why make something up when I can just look over there and tell and show that slice of life that people may not have paid attention to before.
Right. Yeah,
But
and like I said, you and I both enjoy documentaries, and there are people, believe it or not,
I hate them.
they just
Yes.
can't stand. They just won't. But the only way that they're ever going to learn what it's like to be somebody else in a situation, regardless of what that is to show it to them in a movie. And that's why a lot of the greatest movies, even E.T., remember from Steven Spielberg, they have a message that bites, at the end. That kind of, you go to bed at night, you've watched a movie maybe at 3 p.m, and you're going to bed at 10 or 11 or whatever, right? And you still have that lingering thought about the message in that film. It's still with you. And it can be with you and stick with you forever sometimes.
Yeah.
Your brother, I do want to talk to you about your brother. We meant to record this podcast sooner, but, you got to go and see your brother just this last weekend, right?
Right. Yeah.
What was that like? And did you share the news with him about the success that his stardom?
I did. And
Yeah.
he's very funny. He was like, he said, I don't know what I did. I didn't do anything. I was like, what do you mean you didn't do anything? You're the whole reason why the story is a success. And
That's
I was,
so
I was
awesome.
like, you did everything. So yeah, he was, I think he appreciated it. He also tries not to make a big deal out of it. So, but that's always been his nature. So to just to get the photo I got with him, he was kind of like, why would you take a photo with me? What did I do? I was like, you're the whole reason the movie's what it is. So
he saw the poster, right?
Yeah,
That's his face on there.
I know. But yeah, so, and I obviously, I think the response I got from the rest of the family was bigger, but that's just because of who they are, right? It wasn't, it had nothing to do with he didn't like it. It's just, he tends to be,
he's humble.
Yeah. And he doesn't want a lot of attention, so.
Yeah, he's humble, he's modest, and I can understand. I mean, it's a very hard. I mean, what are you going to say? Oh yeah, I rock, I'm the best,
Yeah.
He's probably a little shy about it, which is perfectly normal.
Right.
And at the same time, it's not like, he ran a race and won. It's more like it is, out of something that he doesn't want, that he didn't choose. I'm just trying to be realistic without it's such an emotional story. Speaking about your family as well, what were their thoughts on that? Because I don't remember too much about how supportive they were. I remember your dad watched it frequently, but your mom couldn't.
Right. I think they were very supportive of me, doing the film. They didn't know. they're like, what is this film thing? I don't understand. But they've never understood anything I've done, but partially because most of the stuff I've done had to be confidential. So I basically tell them I can't tell you what I'm doing. So it was the first.
Alexandra is a secret agent.
Right. It's in the industry I was in and still am in freelance. It's like you basically can't tell anybody what you're doing until it's open. So it was the first time I told them, "Hey, I'm doing this," and they're like, "Huh? What is this?" Okay, whatever. And so, yeah, my mom when I sent it to everybody, the family to watch. My mom, I guess, she said she was so emotionally struck by it that she just couldn't watch it again, that was it one time. I mean, she's shared it with family members and friends, and she's has no problem doing that, wants to do that, but personally cannot watch the film again. Whereas my father watches it constantly. Even today, he still watches it. Which is interesting because he's the one that says he has the hardest time facing what's going on with my brother. But I don't know. There was something about it that I guess just struck him in a way that he just has to see it over and over.
Maybe it's also therapeutic for him because it's kind of like if you're scared of fire, maybe that's why you keep lighting matches or something.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, because my father's dealing with it twice, right? He's dealing with watching his own wife decline and then his son. So
that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's got to be really, really hard on him. I can't even imagine. I mean, and it sounds strange for me saying that because it's my family too, but the perspective I know for him is a completely different perspective than mine. Because he's living with the person and watching her slowly go away, and then knowing that his own son is as well. I know he can't bear that. So I'm happy that the film is somehow helping him in some way. I know he's not watching it to depress himself by any means. He's watching it because it gives him something. It fills that void, I guess, that he might be feeling. So that's really good.
It might also make him feel like give him strength to get through it.
Yeah, maybe.
We don't know. We're just guessing here. Your poor dad.
Yeah, I know. And, he hasn't ever really explained why. I mean, he's told me that he does, but he's never really explained why he's felt the need to, but he does. And
yeah. Well,
yeah, that's good.
When you were accepting the award, there was not a dry eye in the house.
I know, especially not mine. Thank you very much, Susie. That was like the hardest thing.
I had no idea because you were getting through everything okay.
Yeah.
I know even before we did this first podcast, I created community stories for a reason, and I don't know what I was thinking because I get emotional too. But it does do it. It's like I felt a need for this, and the phone, just being able to say every person in the world has access to a phone. There is no need why anyone should have to wait for someone else to share their story when they can share it themselves, even though not everybody is savvy in this way or another. But I think most people, once they try, they really inspire themselves to continue and to keep going at it and to see what can. It's almost like starting to draw something or starting to paint, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, well, look, this is kind of coming together. And then next thing you know, you can kind of step back and say, hey, it's something. And I created this. And this is a depiction of, something I meant to create. And so I created that for that reason, and to give you the place, in the space to be able to share that with everybody. It really did mean a lot to me, but I was hoping that it meant a lot to you and to everyone. And I swear my intention was not to make everyone cry.
I know. It was hard. No, I know, because I think that was the first time, I watched it at the film festival, the Transparent Film Festival in New York City, where it won Best Documentary. And
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. And that was hard, but it was easy to stand up on stage after, because they showed it in the middle of all of the winning pieces. So I had time to watch it, sort of recover, and then later on talk about it. And then for you showed it, and then you were emotional. And then I was like, I went up and I was like, okay, I can do this. And then when I looked out at everybody, I was like, wow, I can't. I mean, I just couldn't even do it. And I was so fortunate that my husband and daughter just happened to show up on time, because I honestly don't think I would have made it. I would have made it through that if I didn't see him across the room and have him come over, because I think it was, when I put the film together, it was very easy to do it sort of objectively, right? I mean, I had a goal, I knew what I wanted to achieve, and I was able to, believe it or not, I was able to separate myself emotionally. So I didn't break down while I was putting the film together. It's always been after, now that it's completed, and now that it's 7 or 8 months since I've done it, that now I watch it as purely as a viewer, seeing it almost as if it's for the first time. And it's like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, I never realized it was really that hard to take in, because even now when, from time to time when someone comes over to the house and my husband's like, oh, you have to see this film that, my wife did. And then we all stand by the computer and I put it up and I stand there and I watch it. And the same thing happens like at San Diego. I stand there and I go, oh my gosh, this has to be like the hardest thing for me to watch. And I just didn't realize when I was putting it together how emotional it was, which for me is quite a surprise.
That's actually one of the reasons why I like having you as a guest on this podcast, because that's inspiring, and to share that part of the story with our listeners, because a lot of people, to get started at something, sometimes they need that extra assurance that it's going to mean something. But the thing is that we really don't know, do we, when we start something, what it's going to mean until it's done.
Right. Yeah, you just keep going. You just keep it's like it's as if you go in a completely different mindset when you're putting it together, right? And you're just looking at it in so many different ways. You're not necessarily looking at it. There are times I was looking at things going, oh, that's the perfect expression at this point in it. But when I was doing that, I wasn't doing it in the sense of I'm about to like break down right now. It totally wasn't that. That's why I find it so fascinating that, the way I put it together and then the way I view it later are just two completely separate things.
Do you think that experience of, because you were knee deep into it, it's hard to see. I mean, in the old days, it was film, and I don't know, but if you Google that, guys, you'll find photos and little videos or whatever of these, black and white photos or videos of people. Usually, it was a man most of the time, wearing white blouse and slacks or whatever, and they were sitting in a room, and they've literally got strips of film all over the place. They're like literally knee deep in kind of a metaphor for the deepest cut, right? Knee deep in all these film cuts, right? And they're just in the middle of it, and they're just putting things together and splicing things together, and it's when you have that completed story, because it's really just pieces, it's like putting a puzzle together. It's when you step back after you put all the pieces together and you consume the entire thing as a whole, as a story, that you go, oh, wow, look at what I did. And do you think that even inspires you, looking back at all the pieces you put together and then what it did? And then on top of that, not just about the award, but about sharing it with people to have them feel something.
Yes, because even with the promotional stuff that I did prior to this one, I had that same goal in mind. So everything, just like you said, everything was sort of putting the puzzle together, and it wasn't ready. It was never ready until that final piece was there. And so that's again, that's that separated mindset of making those pieces, yet knowing that the emotional connection had to be there. So we always talked about it when I was at work and doing this promotional pieces, that there was a tear factor to them. And the tear factor, I wasn't trying to always make people cry with stuff. I mean, it could be tears of joy, tears of laughter, it wasn't sad, but it was that it would always strike some sort of chord. And I've noticed that, fortunately, I guess for me, that even after, I mean, I've just recently done a few more little pieces, like some promotional, and it's amazing to. I don't know what it is. I don't know what I do, to tell you the truth. But it's the feeling that I get when I hear how people react to it. They're just, a lot of times it's like, oh my gosh, I'm just crying right now. I'm just in tears. And like I said, it could be tears of joy, but it's tears, like somehow striking that chord is in those viewers is just that number one,
because
that number one goal.
You're bringing people to life.
Yeah.
We're as I mean, we're living in a world as human beings, we've got emotions. We're still animals, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we're humans. We go through emotions and all these things, but we're living right now at a time where everything is so fast coming and going,
Mm-hmm.
it just comes and goes and comes and goes. And we're touching and dropping things at the, we're like little machines. And
Mm-hmm.
to know that we can bring something into someone's life that brings them back into that human moment where they feel something.
Yeah.
That feels, it's not about power. It's just about like connection. Like I'm connecting people to something that makes people feel human.
Yes. And I always try to think of them in terms of this one, mine was easy because it was personal, right? It was my family story. But when I do these for other people, I immediately try to put myself in their shoes so I can understand the connection that they're looking for as well. If you don't do that, you're never going to understand fully what they're feeling. It's not necessarily what they want, but how they feel about whatever that piece is that you're doing for them, right? It doesn't have to be a documentary. It could be, the last thing that I just did was, I think, a 17-second little promotional video for a ballet company that I'm on the board of. But it was trying to catch the emotion of the founder of the company. I know her, and I know the passion that she feels towards what she wants this company to do. And I had to be able to place myself in those shoes so that I could put this little piece together for her. And when she saw it, she's, I guess that's how I nail it. That's how I try to approach all of these pieces that I do for people. And so maybe not everybody else has that same, maybe not all viewers have that connection, but at least the people I'm doing it for do. And it seems that then spreads, because then the people that support them or, follow them, they make that same connection that the people I'm making them for do. So that's it's some kind of weird formula, I guess, that seems to be working right now.
Whoa, you said a magic word there with formula, because I do want to emphasize to our listeners something that's really important, because there's a lot of chatter about smartphone filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be people out there who are going to tell you that there is a formula to this, and that you must do it this way or that way,
Mm-hmm.
that you need to have this, that you need to do that. There are people who make professional films, whatever you want to call it, have experience, and they have their formula that has been
Right.
around for hundreds of years.
Right.
Hundreds, but about 100 and something years. And you say to people, I say to people, look, you can't treat a phone like a traditional camera. This is your
Mm-hmm.
phone. You
Mm-hmm.
can't. You are very close. We are very close to our phones. We pick it up every day, every moment. No filmmaker in the world would eat and sleep and go to work and go to the grocery store with their camera.
Right.
It's a whole different animal.
It's very heavy.
Right? And kind
Right.
of a little bit of a risk.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And so to say to you guys, I'm just trying to emphasize this, and I'm glad that Alexandra just kind of sparked this in me to just say it now. But basically, formula and processes, you can have, feel free to invent your own formula.
Exactly.
Feel free to invent your own process. And you do this by picking up your phone. Please do it. Hold it sideways for me, please.
Yes.
Just so that it can be a part of the film festival and put it on a big screen and look nice. At least for that. But just do those things and then hit record and just start recording things. And then put things together. Even if you don't think you have anything worth putting together, play it back. Play back and see what you've done. You don't like it? There's a delete button. You like it and you think, well, maybe for something this will work. Just put it on a hard drive somewhere. It doesn't matter. Just do it, because you will form your own way of doing things. And don't let mobile filmmaking be what traditional filmmaking is, where all of a sudden you have people on top telling you, you can only do it this way. You must have this. You must do that.
Right.
Don't let people tell you you have to be a perfectionist in some way, or to have super amounts of experience in this or whatever. As a matter of fact, if all you're going to do is try and experiment with other people's formulas, you will never get anything done that's yours.
That's true. Yeah. And it's funny, I've run across that a lot of people, trying to tell me, well, you really should do this and make sure you do that. And, I take it in. I definitely listen to what they have to say, and I'm like, and kind of research it a little bit and go, okay, yeah, well, maybe there's something about that I can try. But I still try to keep it to, how it works for me. I mean, in expressing other people's stories, I am still expressing myself in some way, right? There is a part of me that's in every one of the pieces that I do. You truly never can separate yourself from that. In showing you somebody else's story, I'm still showing you something of myself.
Your perspective.
And if somebody's going to try to tell you that you have to do it a certain way, then you're not sharing yourself anymore, right? There's something lost in it then.
Not only that, it really does have this people don't realize what they're doing when they're doing this to people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, a little kid, right, that comes up to you and says, I want to learn how to do this. And the first thing you do is throw at them all these rules and all these, lectures of how to do it. And you're really turning off that spark. You're watering it down for them so that they kind of like don't want to do it. And
Right.
then great, now you're doing it and they're not doing it and it's all yours. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what's happening again, because it's like, for me, it's a little bit personal, because it's like I didn't go all out to create this opportunity for people to realize their dream using their phone, to that have it turn out to be like this medium where only these incredible people get to share their stories through film and realize their dream, and everybody else just falls through the cracks and feels like, oh, they've got to spend more money, they've got to write. I mean, look, whatever works for you. There is a process for making films. Sure, you 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 do your storyboarding, you write a screenplay, blah blah blah. But you know what? Get started on your way. Don't even write anything. Just go throw yourself out there and start it out. Don't buy anything. Try to, there's stabilizers, there's gimbals and all these things. And that's great, but just try and do these things without that at first. I'm not saying, hey, if it looks like crap, go submit it to a film festival.
Right.
You be your own judge. You be your own critic. You're going to be the worst at it anyways, because you're going to be tough on yourself. But don't forget, you can pick the same phone up in 5 minutes and start over again.
That's right.
And you don't have to hire, Brad Pitt to do it. to act in your films. It's not going to cost you, and no one's going to, Hollywood isn't going to be, the tabloids aren't going to go crazy about, your failure. It's just not like that. And I think that more people, the one thing that I would like to see more of is like what you did, to actually think story behind no matter what you do. Because I think if you get too involved in the formula and the process, you forget to focus on your story, and that's when you really bury yourself in the details, huh?
Yeah.
That's
because I think a lot of people and it's very easy you get very deep in the weeds of, how am I going to color correct it, and how am I going to, how exactly am I going to score it, and how am I going to, the cinematography of it, and then and all of those things are very important. I would never say that they're not important. And yet I think there are times that people get so caught up in that they don't realize that there's hardly a story there, that they forgot about maybe the most important aspect of what they were trying to do, because, they're just trying to make something that's so, I guess, perfect in every way. Right? They want to hit all those notes that they forget the reason why they're doing it, like the reason why they're supposed to be hitting those notes.
I do think that that the films, some people do get disappointed and say, well, my film looked better than that one, right? Why didn't that one get selected? And why did this one win when mine was more this way or had better sound? Or I mean, all these things are important, but I think as a whole, you have to have a good story,
right?
And I'm not the judge.
That's
and seriously, we cannot show you Alexandra's film yet. Darn it!
I know. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You're the Alexandra Spielberg of the industry. No, but some of you who submit films are aware of the fact that while you're doing a festival run, a lot of film festivals will still say you can't show them online anywhere. So we can't do that yet, but we are going to be able to do that. And when we do, we will, maybe what I'll do is I'll update the article, because I write an article on Medium, but maybe what I'll do is I'll go back and edit this article and insert that. But at least for now, we'll put the trailer in for listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. I'm so appreciative of that, because I mean, you and I talked about this. I mean, again, this is the first time I did this, so I just sort of went everywhere with festivals, and a lot of the festivals I entered didn't even have a mobile category. I just said, well, let's see what happens. I'm just going to enter it as a documentary. And it was sort of in the middle of all of this that I realized that, oh, okay, well, I didn't, I didn't maybe plan it as well as I should have, right? Because it's like, oh, well, let's just see what happens. It's just, I'm just rolling the dice. And in rolling the dice, some of the dice said, you know what? You can't do this. And I forgot about that. I forgot about maybe the festival right in front of it said, hey, we're going to show, part of what we do is we're going to make it all public. I'm like, oh no, I'm like, now I'm in a bad place. So I know now for the next time,
you got to read the rules.
And it's really not only read the rules because, I did read all the rules. It's like actually like really plan, like seriously plan out how I'm going to enter these things because, there are some that maybe I do really want to still enter that are premiere, but then I need to make the conscious decision of, okay, then don't enter that in the middle of all the other ones that are going public, make sure that one perhaps is the first one I enter if I really want to. So then that's done and I can go through all of the other ones that I'd like to enter that do want to show it right away. And so
Alexandra, there are millions of film festivals around the world. It's crazy.
I need to keep up with them. I know, exactly.
So
exactly. I don't know how anybody can. I really don't.
It's a very hard. I mean, it's basically like walking into. I don't know where you're listening to this to, because there are people all over the world listening to this podcast. But there's an ice cream store here called 31 Flavors, and you walk in, and if you're 8 years old, like I once was, like some of you maybe for all I know, you want all the flavors in your one ice cream cone. Right. So, and you want to taste them all. But if you go there and they give you this little tiny little pink spoon and you try every one of them, I'll try the pralines and cream and the baseball chocolate or whatever it was, and the chocolate mint and the strawberry whatever. And once you're done tasting all of them, you really can't even handle a cone.
Right.
But yeah, it's like that with the film festivals. There are millions of film festivals out there, and you can see they all have websites. They're all on Twitter. They're all on Facebook. You just go on Google, film festival, and you're going to get a list that says on the bottom, there are 2,054 selections for you, pages.
Yeah.
Film festivals. And you're going to have to sift through all of those. It's going to be a very tough call. What I would do is first you put it in hours if you shot it with a phone. No, but quite honestly, I think you should submit them to the ones that you've heard of first. I mean, who hasn't heard of Sundance or Cannes or any of those film festivals? I suggest you also submit them to local film festivals wherever you are. You have a good chance of them selecting you, right, Alexandra?
That's right. Yeah.
And
just got selected in my local one, so
yeah. And then read through the rules and read also on what their criteria is, because if there's something about that that's going to contradict one that you really want to put it into, then maybe you'll just add it to the list of maybe,
Yeah.
And narrow it down, and then give yourself a window frame to say, look, I'm only going to have this film go through film festivals for 3 months or something like that.
Right.
Because I think it does wear you out if you're constantly submitting films to film festivals. I mean, they do have a demand for your time,
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, I know I do. I put people through the ringer, don't I, with our film festival? Hey, send me this, send me that.
Yeah. And the thing is, like you said, there's so many out there. You can you can get caught up for hours.
Yeah.
Just sort of going through them. And
it's like going on Netflix and picking out a movie.
It is. It is. And then you forget, right? And then you're like, oh, what was that one, like 5 festivals ago that I was looking at? I can't remember. Was that a good one? Or it could consume your whole life. It really could. Really.
And next thing you know, you're stuck with that one film going through all these film festivals, and you don't have time to make another movie.
Right. Exactly.
And speaking of, guys, we're open for submissions right now. I'm hoping after all of this that Alexandra will submit another film to our film festival. I don't
Absolutely.
know if you will. I hope you do.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
I have a few of them absolutely in the works. So I will be submitting something again.
Oh, that's awesome. And I hope you make it back. I know.
Oh, yeah, I would love to.
It's San Diego liked you too. San Diego liked everyone that came last year. I hope everyone that's been submitting films to our film festivals, even the ones that couldn't come last year, even the ones that didn't get selected for whatever reason, just keep submitting your films, because I Alexandra knows I'm not kidding. I love filmmakers, and I really it was, for me, it's better than my birthday. Happens on the same month. But it's better than my birthday. It's better than Christmas to me. It's the one thing in my life that happens every year that it just brings out the best in me, I guess. I really have a great time, and I really enjoyed having you as a part of the film festival. And again, if you, if this was to our listeners, Alexandra never made an actual film before, but she went all in, into it. And it may not happen to you, but for her, it was like a great investment. Wasn't it worth it?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what would you say, we're wrapping up in an hour here, what would you say to all our listeners that we haven't talked about that you think they really should know?
Just in terms of filmmaking in general?
Anything you want, any message you want Alexandra?
I think that whatever you feel passionate about, you just need to do it. I would have never been here right now talking on this podcast or having won the award. And winning the award doesn't matter. It was actually making the film. I would have never made the film if I didn't just say, all right, I've got a passion. I really want to do this, and I'm just going to do it. Too many times people want to do things and then, I don't know, they find an excuse, like some reason why they shouldn't or they can't, and just don't let that happen. I was fortunate to have a lot of support, tremendous support from my husband, to do what I've done, and to continue doing it. But just for yourself, just whatever that is, it doesn't have to be film. It could be anything. It's just, if it's something that you really feel that you want to try and you want to do, then just do it, and don't conform to what society and everything's telling you and what you feel like you should do, because this is the way you were raised and this is the way the world works. Just let that all go and, take that risk. Like I did.
And you really have nothing to lose in the end.
No, you don't. Not at all. If nothing else, for me, this was all about just completing something. It was about this. I want to make my own film. All right. And the full satisfaction was I did it. I started it. I went through the process of it. I completed it. And then I entered it in a film festival. It was never to try to win. It was never to try to be, like we talk about, the next Steven Spielberg. It was never about that. It was about just, can you start something and finish something that you really want to try to do? Most people stop at, we say most people, and it's true, most people stop, if they do it, they stop at around 80%, and they just kind of, and that's it. And this is about, just go all the way, because when you do that, and that feeling of satisfaction and accomplishment is like nothing else. No just regular workplace accomplishment is anywhere close to what that personal sort of goal feeling that you have when you go after something that's just for you.
Yeah, think about, taking a photograph. That may be the simplest thing you do because you just point and click, right?
Right.
when you have a completed film, that story, that completed film, it's there forever. It's
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah.
And even if you don't submit it to a film festival, you know what I mean? I mean, even if you never put it on, even if you, I mean, of course,
Even
most
just
people,
share it with your friends, your
yeah,
family.
yeah.
That it
But if
doesn't
for
matter.
some odd reason you don't want to share it with anyone, not even your own dog, okay? Just do it just so that you'll have that self satisfaction of saying, wow, I actually did this. And maybe you can watch it 50 times in one night because it pleases you to see, look what I did,
Hmm.
and I was able to do that. And you can, people say, other people inspire you. And it's true. I'm inspired by a lot of Alexandra inspires me. I swear. And you know, sometimes we inspire ourselves. I inspire myself sometimes too. I go about
Yeah.
doing something and I go, holy cow, I actually did that. Wow. I inspired myself by doing that. And I'm going to keep doing it again because I know I can do better. And there's nothing wrong with inspiring yourself. there's,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with, cooking something when you didn't think you could cook something. I tried making fish tacos a couple years ago, and they were the best. I never knew that was going to end up so good, but I tried it. I thought it would totally fail. It felt so good to know I could make my own fish tacos. There's nothing wrong with that. It just makes you feel good. And just like sitting down tonight, putting on your headphones and listening to this podcast, to listening to some good music and feeling good. There's nothing wrong with that. But what comes even better is knowing that you created something that you're going to enjoy.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
So with that, I guess I kind of did have to have the last word, didn't I?
That's okay.
I see you really do inspire me to keep adding. Alexandra, why don't you share with everybody? Do you have a website yet or not?
No, I don't. I do have the deepest cut is on a Facebook page right now.
That's right.
I did get that far.
That's good.
The website thing is so funny. As a creative,
Yeah.
sometimes creative people are their worst enemies, right? And like I said about the 80%, this website will get finished one day. It's just I gotta just sort of let it go and just let it out there and see what happens.
I mean, really, honestly, I think all you really need is, calling it a website sounds like a monster.
Right.
What you really need is just like a landing page, like a hub or something, just something to throw links to and some photos and, whatever you want on there, just to have a presence.
Yeah. It's so easy to say that too, isn't it? Because I tell people that all the time. I'm like, just do this, stop thinking it all the way through. And then I had to say, and then I had to tell them, don't do what I'm doing, which is just, again, getting stuck in the weeds of like, everything's got to be just right. It's because I really should listen to my own advice, right? On that one.
No, listen to mine. Just get there.
Okay.
Listeners, if you're not inspired by Alexandra, then I have no idea what will ever inspire you. But check out the trailer of the film, come back because ultimately we will be able to share the film here. It's a 5-minute film. It's not a long film, but it'll definitely, I'm not trying to say that it's going to make you cry, but it's going to help you and inspire you, I think, to share stories in a way that you can move and touch people and show them something that maybe they weren't aware of before. And I do want to wish you, your family, and your brother the very best. I can't say enough. In case you're listening, congratulations. You're a true star, and I hope you get better. And I'm saying this to your brother.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome. And thank you. Say bye to our listeners.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for listening. I hope you got something out of this. And I hope you watch A Deepest Cut when it does come out.
They definitely will. Goodbye, everybody.